good, everybody? Oh, let me move the mic. I'm ignorant as hell today. What's good, everybody? We back. We back. Book club back and rolling. Shout out to my man Tim of Tim and Miranda who got me the paper copy. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, bro. You just don't know. It's gonna make it so much easier for me and also pass it along. I like to give my young bulls, books to read, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Drove not. What's popping with you? How you doing? How you doing? In Japs 8. What's good? What's good? Let's take care of you, my boy. Get your rent. Get your rent. We got Just I in the building. Just I in the building. And my bro, Fishing to Big. Y'all know what it is. You know what I'm saying? What's good? Hope y'all had a great day. Tuesday, we almost halfway through the week. So we gonna about to get back to this reading and this enlightenment, y'all. Shout out to everybody. Yeah, man. Like I said, I'm just got back from the gym a little bit ago. You know what I'm saying? I like to put on 2 t-shirts so I could, yeah, man, getting back to it. Shout out to my bro Mike. Shout out to my boy Mike. I appreciate you, bro. We in there like swimwear, I'm telling you. Oh, they know it. Right? Yeah, I need to stop picking with that. Yeah, man. So no fats, no fillers, man. The Manipulated Man by Esther Vilar. Right? Can I get a mic check so we can go ahead and get this started? We got about an hour reading. We are in this book on a PDF. We is on page 20 something, but in this book, it's actually got us at page 65 in the actual paperback. We're on a chapter, a dictionary. Hey, Tim, thank you, bro. There he is. How you doing, my boy? What's good with you, man? How's everything? Right. We have already read a lot of chapters in this book, so it is available. There is a playlist. This will be attached to the playlist. Please donate to the channel. Please share the video, like the video if you believe this is something that is useful to other young men or older men, right? And ladies, if you want to chime in, that's okay too, right? However, the truth is the truth. We're on the chapter called Dictionary. This is page 65 in the paperback, guys. Constant self-abasement in the presence of men has led women to develop a secret language which other women understand, but which is incomprehensible to men, since they take it literally. It would therefore be a great advantage to men to hold the key to this code and so create a sort of dictionary for themselves. Then, whenever they heard a standard phrase, they could decipher its real meaning. This is interesting that we land on this chapter. The coded language. A man must be able to protect me. Decoded. A man must be able to spare me from all forms of discomfort. What else could he protect her from? Robbers? An atom bomb? Coded. I need a man to make me feel secure. Decoded. Above all, he must keep his money worries to himself. Hey, 18. How are you, beautiful? Coded. I must be able to look up to a man. Decoded. To be a possible candidate as a husband, he must be more intelligent, responsible, courageous, industrious, and stronger than I am. Otherwise, what purpose does he serve? Coded. Of course, I would give up my career if my husband asked me. Decoded. Once he is earning enough money, I am never going to work again. Coded. The only thing I want in life is to make him happy. Decoded. I will do everything in my power to stop him from knowing how much I exploit him. Coded. I will never bother him with trivial problems. Decoded. I'll do anything rather than keep him away from his work. Coded. I am there for him alone. Decoded. No other man has to work for me. Coded. In future, I shall devote my life to my family. Decoded. I'm not going to lift another finger for the rest of my life. It's his turn now. Coded. I don't believe in women's liberation. Decoded. I am not such a fool. I'd rather let a man do the work for me. Coded. After all, we are living in an age of equality. Decoded. If he thinks he can order me about just because he earns money for me, he is sorely mistaken. Corey, what's good, man? Oh, shit. Wait, let me repeat that part. After all, coded. Corey Joe, listen to this. Coded language. After all, we are living in an age of equality. Decoded. If he thinks he can order me about just because he earns money for me, he is sorely mistaken. God. Hey, man. Coded. I'm so bad at doing things like this. Decoded. That's the job he will have to do. What's he there for, anyways? Coded. He knows absolutely everything. Decoded. He even serves the function of an encyclopedia. Coded. If a couple really love each other, there is no need to get married at once. Decoded. He is being a bit obstinate, but I'll soon get him around in bed. Coded. I love him. Decoded. He's an excellent workhorse. Of course, women use stock phrases like these only when there is a man around to hear them. In the company of other women, they talk about their men quite normally, as they will speak of a domestic appliance, which everyone knows to be practical anyway. If a woman says, I've decided to give up wearing this coat or that hat because my boyfriend doesn't like it, she really means I might as well do him that favor. He's doing everything I want anyhow. When women are amongst themselves discussing the desirable qualities of a specific man, they will never declare that they want someone to look up to, someone who will protect them. Such twaddle would be greeted with the laughter it deserves. They are more likely to say they want a man with such and such a job. Jobs are synonymous with income level, old age pensions, widows' endowments, and the ability to pay high life insurance premiums. Or a woman might as well say, the man I'm going to marry must be a little older than I, at least half a head taller and more intelligent, by which she means that it looks normal for a somewhat older, stronger, more intelligent human being to provide for a younger, weaker, more stupid creature. We're on page 68. Next chapter. Women have no feelings. Women have a great many methods to manipulate a man, but to list them all here is impossible. Suffice it to look more closely at two relatively harmless methods: a man's good manners and the suppressions of his emotions. Any man who wishes to be a success with women, and is there one who doesn't, must acquire a variety of qualifications. Apart from intelligence, ambition, industry, and pertinacity, he must know exactly how to behave in the presence of women. With this aim in view, women have established certain norms which are called good manners. Basically, the rule is that any man who has a sense of self-respect must, at all times, treat a woman like a queen. Similarly, a self-respecting woman must, at all times, give men every opportunity of treating her like a queen. That's fair, sir. A woman will marry a man simply because he is wealthy. But if she is given the choice between two wealthy men, one with and one without manners, she will choose the man who has them. For if a man has mastered the rules governing good manners, a woman can be sure that he will never, at any time, question her ideal value as a woman, which he has long since been conditioned to respect, not even after she has ceased to attract him. Psychologists state that happiness comes with laughter, faith with prayer. This is true, but only for men. If he treats women as a superior being, she will become a superior being for him. Women are more gifted to differentiate between fact and fiction. Unlike other methods of manipulation, good manners are not the result of conditioned forms of behavior based on profound psychological motivations. Children are taught to behave relatively late, and manners are particularly easy to recognize as a form of women's exploitation. It is a puzzle why, even today, such old tricks are still successful. The advice a mother gives to her teenage son going out on his first date is a good example of woman's audacity. Pay the taxi, get out first, open the door on the girl's side, and help her out. Offer her your arm giving up the steps, or go, I'm sorry, offer her your arm going up the steps, or if they are crowded, walk behind her in case she stumbles so that you may catch her. Open the door into the foyer for her. Help her out of her coat. Take the coat to the coat room attendant. Get her a program. Go in front of her when you are taking your seats and clear the way. Offer her refreshments during the intermissions, and so on and so forth. And on top of that, we should not forget that the average type of play is an outdated form of entertainment because most of them are aimed at the intellectual level of women, as indeed are many of those things which we like to label cultured. Pity the poor man who has to submit to all this. He probably has an inkling that not only he, but the assembled company of directors, actors, and producers awaiting them are there only to form the background for women and her clique. The background is simply the background is simply a place where she can indulge in her inane orgies, where she and other women can take part in their grotesque masquerades with the extras, the men, suitably costumed in black. The most cynical aspect of the good manners etiquette is the role of protector, which is forced on a man. This begins upstairs. Nope, I'm sorry. This begins harmlessly enough. It is true. He follows her when going upstairs or walks on the traffic side of a pavement. It is when we reach the level of military service and war that the significance of this becomes more serious. One of the most important rules is that a man must, under all circumstances, protect a woman from unpleasantness, even if necessary with his life. And as soon as he is old enough, he will do just that. This training is accomplished at such an early age that in any catastrophe, a man will save a woman and children before he thinks of himself at the cost of his own life. There is no compelling reasons why these roles should not be reversed. Since women is unfeeling, she could cope with the psychological effects of war atrocities more easily than a man. And the modern form of war requires neither physical strength nor intelligence, only the ability to survive, tenacity. All statistics about lifespan show that women live longer than men and therefore are tougher. A normally developed North American woman who has taken sports at school, for example, is certainly not inferior in physical strength to the much smaller Vietnamese man. A GI fighting against an Asian man, a GI fighting against Asian men is making war on an enemy no stronger than his college girlfriends. We have already mentioned women's lack of emotional capacity. The fact that women make every attempt to suppress man's ability to express his emotions is a certain indication of this. Yet she still contrives to create the myth of feminine depth of feeling and vulnerability. The tear ducts are tiny pouches containing fluid. With training, they can be controlled, just as one controls the bladder. So that there is no more need for an adult to cry than there is for him to wet his bed. A male child is taught very early in life to control both those functions. Once again, women degrades herself. Boys don't cry. Boys don't cry. You're not a little girl. Little girls, on the other hand, are never taught to control their tears, and they quickly learn to use them to advantage. If a man sees a woman crying, it would never occur to him that she may be incontinent. He assumes her feelings are aroused to a considerable extent and even judges the degree of feeling by the quantity of liquid shed. This is obviously a mistaken interpretation, guys. Women really are callous creatures, mainly because it is to their disadvantage to feel deeply. Feelings might seduce them into choosing a man who is of no use to them, i.e., a man whom they could not manipulate at will. They might even actively come to dislike men. After all, men are beings who should be alien to them and decide to spend their lives exclusively in the company of women. Guys, in fact, however, there are far fewer overly homosexual women than homosexual men, and such women are generally well to do or at least financially secure. A woman with feelings will have to think and work, to take on responsibilities, and to learn to do without all the things which mean so much to her. Because she does not want this, she decides to remain callous. But she knows at the same time that it is necessary for women to enact the role of a sensitive being, or a man would become aware of her essentially cold, calculating nature. Still, as her emotions are always faked and never felt, she can keep a clear head. You can take advantage of someone's feelings only if you are not involved yourself. Therefore, she turns her partner's emotions to her own profit, only taking care to make sure he believes she feels as deeply as he himself, perhaps even more deeply. She must make him believe she, as a woman, is much less stable, much more rational, much more emotional. Only thus may her deception remain undetected, guys. but manipulation has, in any case, already taken care of that. A real man does not weep or laugh very loud. He's reserved. Smiles have a sympathetic effect on those around him and makes him seem a serious person to his business associates. He never shows surprise. He never screams, ah, when a light goes on, nor, oh, when he touches cold water. He never shows that he is making an effort by saying, when he has lifted a heavy case. He does not even sing when he is happy. Therefore, if a man notices all these emotional reactions in a woman, it never occurs to him that he has been conditioned by a woman not to express his own similar feelings. As a result, he assumes she is much more sensitive than he is, for otherwise, she would not dare to exhibit her feelings in such an uncontrolled manner. A man who would cry only if a real catastrophe occurred, perhaps the death of his wife, must assume that when his wife breaks into floods of tears because of canceled holiday plans, for example, her emotions are equally strong, but for a lesser cause. He even thinks himself loutish and callous because he cannot share her grief. What an advantage a man would have if only he realized the cold, clear thoughts running through a woman's head while her eyes are brimming with tears. Y'all still with me? Are you still with me? This is reading. It is not meant to be overly exciting. What time we at? 7:38. Okay, we're on page 73 in the book, Sex as a Reward. Every method of manipulation is based on the carrot and stick principle, whose applicability depends to a large extent on the ratio of physical strength possessed by trainer and trainee. When dealing with the young, the carrot is favored as a means of control. It has the advantage of maintaining children's trust in adults so that even at a later date they will bring their problems to their parents. And so the process of manipulation is continued. This is so much more effective than to start with the stick. If a captive dolphin has learned to do a trick well, its trainer throws it a fish. Because the dolphin wants to eat, it will do whatever it is asked of it. Man, however, since he earns money, is quite capable of providing his own food, it would be impossible to bribe him in this way. He would, in fact, be above bribery altogether were it not for one basic male need which has to be satisfied: the need for physical contact with a woman's body. T Hill, what's popping? Where you been at, bro? How you been? How you been, man? And I repeat, the need is so strong and its fulfillment gives man such intense pleasure that one suspects that it may be the prime reason for his voluntary enslavement to woman. His longing for subjection may even be a facet of his sexual makeup. All right, Mr. Hill, I appreciate you, bro. The basis of any economy is a system of barter. Therefore, someone demanding a service must be able to offer something of equal value in exchange for it. But as a man must fulfill his sexual desires, and since he tends to want to possess exclusive rights over one vagina, the prices have risen to an extraordinate level. This had made it possible for women to follow a system of exploitation which puts the most exploitative robber barons to shame, and no man remains exempt. The concept of femininity is essentially sociological, not biological. Even a homosexual is unlikely to escape without paying his dues. The partner whose sexual drive is less developed quickly discovers the weak points of the others, whose drive is more intense, and manipulates him accordingly. It will always be the woman, or the female partner in any homosexual relationship who exploits the man. For to be a female means to be undersexed. Just as woman denies herself any depth of emotion, she denies herself a sexual appetite. How else can a young girl tell her boyfriend she loves him but refuse him her body? Thanks to her mother's advice, a girl would suppress her desires even in puberty for the sake of the capital to be gained later. In earlier societies, a bride had to be a virgin to be worth anything. And even today, a girl who has little sexual experience will have a higher market value than one who had a number of lovers. Chastity in a man, on other hand, has never been worth much. What's good, Tom? As women do not really care for men. They are not much interested in their chastity. For this reason, a boy can never be graped by an older woman, only seduced. But let a man play that game with an adolescent girl. He will be lynched as a sex criminal by a female mob. A man could, of course, condition his sexual needs as easily as a woman, provided his training started at a very early age. Sufficient proof of this are monks, the majority of whom survive without sexual satisfaction. Nobody will, in parentheses, it says, nobody will seriously maintain that they are all eunuchs. But instead of learning to suppress his needs, a man will allow them to be encouraged whenever possible by women. Of course, since their interests are mainly directed towards the man's libido. Man is never dressed in such a way as to awaken sexual desire in the opposite sex, but it is very much to the contrary with women. By the age of 12, she is already disguised as bait. The curves of breasts and hips are exaggerated by tight-fitting clothes and the length of leg. The shape of calf and ankle are enhanced by transparent stockings. Her lips and eyes beckon, moist with makeup, her hair with gleaming tints. And to what purpose, if not to stimulate the male to ever increasing, everlasting sexual desire? She will offer her wares like goods in a shop window, apparently so near and at a price so easily obtained. No wonder men think there is no greater happiness than to make enough money to pay for such a tempting merchandise. Lacking money, or at least lacking the prospect of it, a man will have to do without a woman and consequently without sex. But nevertheless, the relationship between the sexes involves a credit system. That is, women are prepared under certain circumstances, while the husband is still training for his profession, to earn their own money, more or less as a loan against future earnings, and to place their bodies at his disposal. In this case, the interest rates are proportionally high. The profession for which the man is preparing during this time must promise an income lucrative enough to make the woman's investment worthwhile. In general, it is axiomatic that a woman would be expensive in direct proportion to the attractiveness of her secondary sex characteristics. Hence, if one man meets another with an especially attractive wife, instead of being depressed, he should consider how much money the woman is liable to be costing her husband. Amen. It would be more economical for a man to satisfy his sexual needs with a prostitute instead of rushing into marriage. Prostitute, in the conventional sense, strictly speaking, most women belong in this group. But here again, a man will behave by conditioned reflex. Sex that does not cost much is considered correspondingly inferior. His pleasure varies according to the cost of the woman he sleeps with. And if he cannot get the desired woman any other way, or if there is no other way to keep her, he offers the highest bid and takes her to City Hall. For this reason, women calmly tolerate the professional prostitute. Why should they mind when they never feel jealousy as a man does? They might well feign jealousy occasionally, of course, just to flatter him. They don't mind the institution of brothels either. Their attitude towards extramarital affairs is exactly the same, unless, of course, they become too obvious, in which case they tend to forgive them. How few women would leave an unfaithful husband, and how few men would stay with a woman in the same circumstances. Wives will often even welcome a philandering husband, for there are so many advantages arising from his gratitude for her tolerance and forgiveness. Obviously, women would prefer to be able to control extramarital affairs. This explains why the wife swapping parties and plurist sex practices are gaining favor, for they tend to neutralize the sexual fantasies of husbands and men friends. Moreover, these kind of sexual releases are free, whereas professional prostitutes absorbs money, which should be put into housekeeping. As the group of people is usually well acquainted, rules of hygiene can be imposed, and there is less danger of venereal diseases, which a man might catch if he visits an anonymous brothel. And this is one one of women's main worries as far as a husband's sexual adventures are concerned. It is ironic that men consider ordinary prostitutes so very contemptible. They are among the few women who frankly admit that they make money by renting out a specific orifice of their bodies. The female callings of prostitute, actress, model, singer, or dancer are not practiced by men, but whereas actresses, singers, dancers, and models work with safety nets being the men who catch them when they don't feel like working anymore, a prostitute has no such recourse. When she is tired or ill, there is no one there, waiting hopefully for the time when he will be allowed to support her. No man in our society would allow a prostitute to exploit him as a fashion model, for instance, could. Women, too, despise the common prostitute, but for a different reason. They despise her for her stupidity. A woman who sells her body so ineptly is shockingly stupid by female intelligence standards. They admire only such women as are able to exact an exorbitant price for their favors. For example, those who marry Rothschilds, Aga Khans, or Rockefellers. They have impressed they have impressed on men the concept that prostitution is a sordid profession to intimidate men who otherwise might one day be able to draw parallels. The basic principle of sex as a reward does not vary from woman to woman. They all offer themselves to a man, stress their charms, and then, providing he has performed his tricks satisfactorily, reward him. And since they never cease to keep him in a state of sexual excitement, he will demand the reward again and again. It is only men with reduced sexual potency who can afford to make do with the sporadic affairs and live the life of a hippie year after year without feeling the need of a regular reward. One of the results of this female system of sex reward is that a man with strong sexual needs must be more obedient to women than others. Look at the advertisements for dynamic, enterprising, energetic, enthusiastic young men so much in demand in business. What are such men, in fact, but sexually dependent psychopaths who have set their standards in women too high? Why else would a man use all his energies and imagination to sell a particular commercial product only for the reward? Excuse me, guys. The whole world outside his office window beckons him with the promise of adventure. Yet so strong is his sex drive that he'll gladly forego all that there, all that is there, and instead buy himself a woman with his hard-earned money. But even if he calls her his adventure, she would never be a substitute for what he has lost. Wives, and if he meets her, when and if he meets her, everyone will follow the strict system of supply and demand with its rigid rules and almost total lack of surprise. The old saying that a woman's fate is her body is true insofar as fate has a positive meaning, but in the negative sense, it is better applied to men. After all, a woman profits from her anatomical peculiar, 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 peculiarities whenever she can, while a man is an eternal slave to his. The male erection is so grotesque to a woman that the first time she experiences it, she can hardly believe her eyes. However, when she realized that it can be produced by the that it can be However, when she realized that it can be produced by the slightest provocation, not necessarily even a naked woman, a film or a photograph might do, she will still not get over her amazement. It is, after all, a reflex action, rather like hitting someone on the knee. Probably no theory evolved by man is as absurd as Sigmund Freud's theory of penis envy. To a woman, the penis and scrotum seem superfluous to a man's otherwise neatly constructed body. They are all they are almost untidy. She cannot understand that after use, the penis is not retractable like an aerial on a portable radio. And as for envy, it would never occur, even to a little girl. Not in her deepest unconscious would she wish to possess a penis, and as to develop, and as to being at a disadvantage compared to a little boy. This is nonsense, for she gets preferential treatment anyway. Freud was merely the victim of training by women's self abasement techniques, thanks to his mother, wife, and probably his daughters as well. He confused cause and effect. A woman only says she is worth less than a man. She doesn't really think it. If anyone ought to feel a sense of envy, it is men. They should be jealous of woman's power, but of course they never are, for they glory in their powerlessness. Their powerlessness. Sal, what's good, Will? How you doing? How you doing? Got a few more minutes. This is page 80. We're in chapter The Female Libido. As it is difficult to test or classify the degree to which women feel sexual stimulation, or to divine the exact nature of a female orgasm, men get into considerable difficulties when they try to analyze her capacity for sexual excitability and orgasm. If they make any attempts to come to conclusions on the subject, they are forced to rely to a large extent on the information women volunteer to them. And since women have no respect for exact scientific data and are interested only in what is of immediate benefit to them, they will say what seems to be convenient or opportune at the time. Consequently, any facts acquired on the subject of a woman's reactions, whether, for instance, she is frigid, to what degree she can enjoy sexual intercourse, or whether her own orgasm can be compared to that of a man, tend to be extremely, I lost my place, I'm sorry, contradictory. It is supposed that even Masters and Johnsons did not get an average woman onto their test bed. As a result, man vacillates between the conviction that woman has no true sexual drive and the fear that she is more highly sexed than he is, but refrains from telling him so out of pity. He will spend days working out bigger, better, and subtler questionnaires in his effort to come to some conclusion. And in the interest of science, he expects women to answer his questions truthfully, as if she could or would. Ebon was popping, bro. Oh. It is probable that the truth lies somewhere between the two extremes. Certainly, women are not all nymphomaniacs, or there would be more male prostitutes. On the other hand, women do not feel an intense aversion to sex, as has so often been maintained. Women live an animal existence. They like eating, drinking, sleeping, even sex, providing there is nothing to do and no real effort is required of them. Unlike a man, a woman will rarely make an effort to get her partner into bed. If, however, he is already there and she hasn't planned to set her hair, undertake some other form of large-scale beauty repair, and there is no TV program she wants to see, she would not be adverse, right? She would not be the averse partner. But even the euphemisms active for the male partner and passive for the female do not conceal the fact that women allows men to serve her in bed just as he does in every other sphere of her life. Even though intercourse may give a man pleasure in the long run, it is nothing more than a service to a woman, in which the man is the better lover, arousing desire more skillfully, quickly, and making it last longer. My boy, what's good, man? Men suspect that women tend to exploit them during intercourse and have developed a certain fear of female sexual appetite. Signs of this appear in the rites of ancient cultures and physiology. Just reading up, man. I'm trying to keep from getting tongue-tied. Signs of this appear in the rites of ancient cultures and philosophical works of men such as Schopenhauer and Nietzsche, and the novels of Baudelaire, Balzac, and Montalant, in plays by Strindberg, O'Neill, and Tennessee Williams. Since the discovery of oral contraceptives, this fear has reached almost hysterical proportions. Whole books are devoted to the question whether a man needs to worry about women's sexual demands, and if so, to what extent. And at the same time, advertising has discovered new opportunities to make money by selling men advice on how to achieve sexual dexterity. In truth, reliable oral contraceptives invented by a man, naturally, have robbed men of the only triumph left to him in his state of sexual subjugation. Previously, women was always, to a certain extent, at his mercy. Now she is suddenly in control. She can have as many children as she wishes. She can even select the fathers, rich if possible. If she has no intention of having children, she can indulge in intercourse as often as it appears advantageous to her. Men cannot do that. He had always claimed that his sexual potency was without limit and that he only needed an unreserved woman to prove it. Today, this is impossible. Any woman can read for herself in popular magazines exactly how potent men are. She would know how. Hey, mom, you can just take it in the room for me. I'm almost done with this. Thank you. Allow me on. Today, this is impossible. A woman can read for herself in popular magazines exactly how potent men are. She will know how active he will be at any given age, whether his best time is afternoon or night, if he is a better lover before or after a meal, and whether his prowess increased into the mountains or at the seashore. She knows how often he can make love on any one occasion in order to satisfy her. What is more, she can be sure of these statistics, for men would never cheat when giving information of this kind. A masculine man would consider it a sign of weakness to lie in any situation at all. So women can rely absolutely on the figures given and know exactly what a man should be able to achieve. He has provided her with charts to determine any man's potency at any given stage in his life. And thanks to efficient birth control methods, she can experiment with different kinds of men and compare their sexual performances. Contrary to men's fear, women do not, however, weigh one man against another and choose the most virile. Far from that, as she herself is not all that keen on sex. In view of that, and provided all other conditions are equal, she is likely to prefer the less potent man because she can always blackmail him with her intimate knowledge of his weakness. In the realm of sex, more than any other, man is a victim of the principles of efficiency according to which he has manipulated. Indeed, he sets his own standards 3 times in a row. Very good. Twice, good. Once, satisfactory. If he fails as a sex machine, he is, in his opinion, a total failure. Even if he is a brilliant scientist, he will never again be really happy. Women know this and take advantage. For example, she can pretend she is unaware of her husband's lack of virility and continue to praise him for his prowess, probably the most frequent method applied. She can make a man believe his sexual failure is a real handicap so that he considers himself lucky that she stays with him. C, she can threaten to expose his sexual inadequacy unless he does everything she wants, since a man would rather be called a thief or a murderer than impotent. He will bow his head to his fate and do what he is told. Man's sexual potency depends on psychological factors more than any other of his bodily functions. Once he has begun to doubt his potency, he will gradually find himself in more and more difficulty. His fears of becoming useless to a woman increase because, as a result of woman's manipulation, he identifies his masculinity with his dependence on them. For this reason, he will resort to every possible means to remain dependent. One really should reflect on the absurdity of this situation. Aphrodisiacs, once hidden discreetly under the counter and usually prepared by quacks, have long since become socially acceptable and are among the best-selling products of the pharmaceutical industry. Even in serious publications, the number of articles on sexual difficulties is increasing. In men room jokes, which, as we all know, are the result of a man's castration, anxieties are heard more frequently, though they are usually quite humorless. And men certainly do not buy pornographic magazines for pleasure. There are so many better and more sophisticated ways of amusing themselves. Their interest lies slowly in the hope of finding, in such powerful stimulation, some means of retaining this mythical level of masculine virility. All of this serves to make man once again the victim of his habit of thinking of women in terms of his own standards. He really believes that women, now safe from the dangers of conception, are thinking about nothing but how to make up for lost time, to spend the rest of their lives making love. This is a natural assumption, since he has been manipulated to think that sex is the height of all pleasure. He is, of course, quite mistaken. A woman would certainly feel happy when she has an orgasm, but it is not the most intense pleasure she knows. A cocktail party or buying a new pair of Auburgine colored patent leather boots rates far higher. Man's fear of losing ground at the sexual or physical level as a result of women's newfound freedom is, of course, quite absurd. No matter how much a woman enjoys making love, she would never let the man who supports her tire himself so that he may be late to work the next morning. This is too big a risk to take. Even the most passionate woman will reduce her sexual activities if she thinks nights spent making orgiastic love are beginning to affect his work. Nymphomaniacal women exist almost solely in films and plays. Just because they are so rare in real life, the public is curious about them. For the same reason, so many films and novels are about extremely rich people who form such a small percentage of the total population. What's good, Lionel? How you doing, brother? There is only one aspect of a man's sexual potency that concerns a woman, whether he is capable of fathering children or not. Children, as we shall see later, are essential to a woman if she is to bring her plans to fruition. It is probable that many women would be pleased if man's need for sex dried up after she had produced 2 or 3 children. It would do away with numerous small inconveniences. The sexual competence in a man is a matter of indifference to the majority of females is shown by that sexual competence in a man is a matter of indifference to a majority of females is shown by the number of highly paid men who marry and stay married, despite the fact that they are impotent. It is inconceivable that a woman without a vagina will have any prospects whatsoever of getting married to a normally sexed man. Let's see how long this chapter is. All right, this next chapter is pretty long, so we're not gonna make it through it in 10 minutes, y'all. So we're gonna call it here. We'll be back soon, starting up on page 86, manipulation through bluff. That's where we'll be at. I appreciate y'all rocking out and listening. Y'all have a great day. We back at it like a crack addict. We back at it like a crack addict. It's a book club. Peace.